Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good day to everyone. I am Nur Fatah Shaira binti Muhammad Sari and my partner Nur Alis Fatiha are going to present our research-based articles assignment on a comparative analysis on speech act used in Disney movies. Next slide, please. Okay, so this presentation will look through the comparison between two articles that we have chosen, which is the first article, Speech Act Analysis of Frozen, the movie script, and also Speech Act in Disney animated movie, Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time. For the first article, entitled Speech Act Analysis of Frozen, the movie script was published in 2019 in the Professional Journal of English Education, Volume 2, Number 5, and the article was written by Adinda Srimulia Rahayu, Sri Nandri Shahrizal, and Irma Savitri Sanken. As for the second article entitled Speech Act in Disney animated movie Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, it was published on September 26, 2022 in the Journal of English Language and Culture. And this article was written by Tao Kwok Tran and San Vin Tran. Next slide, please. Today, we are going to look further into the introduction of both studies, methodology, findings and discussion, conclusion, and also references. Next slide. Firstly, we are going to look at the introduction for both studies. As we can see from the image attached here, for the first article on Frozen, firstly, we are going to look at the introduction for both studies. As we can see from the image attached here, for the first article on Frozen, with a focus on the analysis of Speech Act, the introduction offers a concise but sufficient overview of pragmatics. A few definitions from 1969 in Tauchid and Rukmini 2016, Griff 2006 in Lisdawati and Shahrizal 2012, Ilyas and Krushi 2012, and also Finnegan 2011 are cited. For the second article, explains the concept of speech acts and pragmatics thoroughly with citations from 1683, Yule 1696, and Vijaya and Helmut 2019. And the author also includes the importance of speech act studies as well as the reasons for selecting the movie for this content analysis paper. Therefore, both articles, Article A and Article B, discuss pragmatics and speech act. Next slide, please. Moving on to the next slide, we will look into the purpose and significance of the study. So the purpose of the study for the first article is clear, which is to understand and analyze speech acts in the context of the movie Frozen. However, the significance of studying speech acts in this particular movie or how it contributes to the broader field is not explicitly stated. For the second article, the purpose of the research is stated directly, which is to examine the speech act in the screenplay for Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, and the significance of the study is also stated, in which the researcher focuses on how the selected movie can contribute to the field of education, in which it can educate students about speech acts, and literature for further understanding of how speech acts are deployed in different situations in the movie. So it can be compared that both articles have the purpose of the study, but only the second article mentions the significance of the study. Next, we will look at the research aims or research objective. So for the first article, the research aim or objective is explicitly stated, which is to analyze the speech act in the movie script of Frozen. Only one research objective or aim are stated. However, the specific research questions are not clearly articulated. It would be beneficial to explicitly state the question to guide the study. Same goes for the second article. The purpose of the research is stated in only a sentence, which is to examine the speech act in the screenplay for Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time. There are no RQ stated. Thus, it can be concluded that both articles only stated one research objective and no research question. Other than that, rationale. The absence of a specific section addressing the rationale is notable in the first article. Meanwhile, in the second article, it can be observed that there are some missing components in the study in which it does not include previous study related to this topic, and also no argues as the researcher has unnecessarily summarized the whole plot of the movies in the literature review section. Hence, it can be seen that both articles do not have the rationale for the study. Next slide. Now we will look further at the methodology section. So first we will look at the research design. So for the first article, the methodology paragraph states that a qualitative research design is used to analyze the speech acts in the movie script of Frozen. However, it lacks specific details about the qualitative methods employed, such as data collection techniques and also the analytical approach. As for the second article, the research has employed descriptive qualitative study as its research design, where a brief explanation of descriptive qualitative study is presented, and the paper also included a brief data collection procedure and data analysis procedure, no coding schemes provided, and the study also included data validation, where an expert in field of English studies reanalyzed the data and the similarity was presented, which is 95%. And it can be concluded that the first article does not provide much details on research design, while the second article provided much details on the research design. Next slide, please. Next, we will look at data collection. So for the first article, it uses document analysis, in which the study mentions that the data were taken from the movie script of Frozen, specifically from the character named Anna. This is clear and provides a focus for the analysis. And the script was written by Jennifer Lee in 2013. While the primary source of data for this second research is the film Dialogue Transcript of Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, the author also highlighted that the paper focuses on linguistic units such as words, phrases, clauses, and sentences. However, the author has created confusion as the paper stated that the study utilized observation and documentation as the research tool. And last one for the methodology section is theoretical framework. And the first article uses Surrey theory, which is representative, commissive, directive, expressive, and verdictive to form the foundational framework, and employed Finnegan's classification for the detailed analysis of speech acts within that theoretical framework. So the theoretical framework are frequently included in the methodology section. But for this article, the theoretical framework is mentioned briefly in the introduction of the study. In comparison, for the second article, the study has adapted Mazin's 2019 model and Surrey 1983 foundational categorization model for speech acts, and the speech acts are divided into 5. Same goes to the first article, which is representative, directive, expressive, commissive, and declarative, where it is presented in a form of table together with its example. Hence, it makes it easier for readers to navigate the speech act. And it can be concluded that both articles use Surrey's theory, which applies to representative, directive, expressive, commissive, and declarative types of speech acts. And I think that's all from me. Next, I will pass the presentation to Anna.
All right. Thank you, Fatiha. Now, I'm going to move on to findings and discussion. So, for the first one, the presentation of the findings. For this section, we can find out that in the article 1, findings are discussed together with the discussion in the results and discussion section. And it was clearly presented in the tabular format, in which that it summarizes the type of speech acts, which is representative, commissive, directive, expressive, and also the number of occurrences for each type. However, it can be observed that it's quite different a little bit to the article 2, in which that the overall findings are presented in the form of table where the speech act forms are presented in the numbers as well as the percentage. For the article 2, the discussions are not included in this part. And also, the explanations are presented on top of the table. The brief explanation starting from the most to the least found speech act. So moving on, we're going to look at the frequency and the distribution of the data in the both articles. So for the first article, it was presented in the table form, and also it was provided in a quantitative analysis, indicating the representative have 38 occurrences, directive have 32 occurrences, the expressive has 10 occurrences, and also the commissive has 3 occurrences. And it can be observed that it is similar to the second article, in which that the frequency is also presented quantitatively in the form of table in the ascending order, which means that the most one are being explained first and followed by the least one. So each type of the speech act are divided into different tables, and also it was stated that for the representative part, the occurrences are 445, and for the directive, it has 291 occurrences. For the expressive, it has 91 occurrences. For the commissive, it has 25 occurrences. And also for the declarative part, there are no occurrences that can be found in the movie Cinderella 3. So moving on. So for the illustrative examples, for the first article, the illustrative examples are labeled from data 1 to data 10, also in the form of table that showcase the specific instances of each type of speech act. And also, in order to further illustrate the data, the dialogue are extracted from the film Frozen to serve as example, in which that one examples are assigned to each distinctive category of speech acts. And it can be observed that for this part is also similar to the second article, in which that for the second article, the function of every speech act performed are presented also in the tables. And for this section, the examples are also taken from the dialogue of the movie in order to further illustrate the explanation of this function. Interestingly, the results from this study are compared to the other studies. For this part, we can find out that it is a little bit different to the first article, in which that the author for the second article will cite another author. For example, Rasmawati 2021 found out that the primary function of the expressive speech act in the movie Lovely Bones is used for praising. Meanwhile, in Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, the result has shown that it is primarily used for apologizing. So we can see the significant differences between Article 1 and Article 2 here, in which that the second author try to introduce the other previous studies to compare with their studies, in which that the first one doesn't have it. Okay. So moving on, for the limitation of the study, this part are being discussed in the conclusion part. So for the limitation in the first article, there are no explicit mention of the limitations. And also, the author also have a brief acknowledgement of any constraint of limitation in the research process would add transparency and credibility. However, it is quite different to the second article, in which that the author acknowledged that this study indeed has limitation, because the researcher highlighted that this study concentrated only on the illocutionary part of the speech act. It doesn't discuss about proto-locutionary and other types. So for the implication and significance, we can find out that in the first article, there are no implications of the research or its significance are discussed in this study. Also, it also includes the reasons on studying speech acts in a movie script is meaningful, on how it contributes to linguistic and cinematic analysis would enhance this section. However, it is also different to the second article in which that the researcher highlighted the significance of the study by citing another researchers. For example, the author highlighted that this study is very significant because Zayed 2014 noted that EFL students must be taught many sorts of speech acts in order to interact effectively and fluently with native English speakers in order to add more credibility to the research. Moving on. So for the final part in the articles, we can find out that in the first articles, there are no recommendations suggested. So it was in order to highlight that more future research on speech acts in the movie would contribute to the overall conclusion. So this approach is a little bit different to the second article in which that the researcher recommend future research to emphasize other aspects such as locutionary or prolocutionary. And also, the researcher recommend for the other researcher for the future research to integrate other firms and compare them across a variety of research settings, which means that probably that other research can make mixed method or also like quantitative method. Nonetheless, the researcher does not provide the reasons why it is necessary to take the recommendation for consideration in order to persuade or make other researchers to think that the urge to do study in this field. So this is the references that we have used to make this presentation, and I think that's all from us. Thank you for listening.